Welcome to Tales of Resilience, the podcast that shares the real stories of the people behind animal rescue, the heartbreaks, the triumphs, and the moments that keep us going. I'm your host, Jolene, a mental health therapist and lifelong animal lover. This podcast is brought to you by Zodipods, a heart-led company celebrating the bond between people and their pets, and Animal Rescue Hub, our free nonprofit directory supporting rescue groups across the country. Welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and I am so happy to introduce our first guest on this podcast. She's the founder operator of Hazel's House Rescue, a foster-based rescue in the Newburgh area in Oregon, and is able to take in cats, dogs, and small animals from all over Oregon. So please welcome Brittany Hazel.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for participating in this project. My goal is really just to kind of go behind the scenes of rescues, people involved in the animal welfare space, because I think it's a job that a lot of people don't understand and maybe fully about what happens and what people like yourself go through on a day-to-day and what it takes to keep showing up for yourself, for the animals, and the people around you.
Yeah, I think there's the side of it's the positive that we put out, and there's not always the backside that everybody sees. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you again. Can you start off by telling us a little bit more about Hazel's House Rescue and maybe even a little bit of the journey of how you got started?
yeah, so I guess we can kind of go to the beginning so we can start there. But,
Sure.
um, I was one of those kids that grew up wanting to be a vet, but at the time that was just didn't end up being for me. Took a step back and, went into adulthood and did all that. And when we bought our first house, we actually were asked to take in a litter of like semi-feral kittens from family friend, socialize them, find them homes. This was, I don't know, 8 years ago. And we fell in love with the process and realized that it was something that we wanted to do more, that I wanted to do more. And slowly from there, we developed Hazel's House. Um, After that litter, we took in a mom and her bonded mate, and she was unfortunately already pregnant. And it just kind of happened from there. I spent 2 years mentoring with an animal shelter to learn kind of how to run a rescue, because we realized we didn't just want to foster, we wanted to actually run the rescue. And COVID hit in 2020, and I was still mentoring, and they opted to shut down just for safety concerns for their staffing, which 100% valid, but it was also the height of kitten season. And I decided to take my free time and put it into running Hazel's House fully. And that's when we started, fully going full force in 2020. And here we are today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when opportunity knocks, you got to take it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You just go.
Yeah. Now you said free time, but I also was reading that you have a full-time job. Is that correct?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So this was so we work on top all of my board, but myself, we work full-time jobs and then we volunteer after that.
Wow. Wow. That definitely sounds like a lot of responsibilities.
It is. It can be time consuming, but we do it because we love it.
Yeah. And what was that like during that COVID time when you were kind of getting going and kind of picking up the pieces where things kind of fell apart? What was that like for you during that time?
It was interesting because, we came out of COVID and I didn't know what a world outside of COVID even looked like. We mentoring pre-COVID, I didn't see all of the aspects. So, we started small, but I don't even know what you would consider small as an in-house rescue. We still probably had 20 or 30, kittens with, because there's moms and babies and whatever, but we had a good support system. We had a good following. We had spent years kind of like making the community aware of who I was and what we were trying to achieve eventually. I felt like that we actually managed COVID fairly well. But I didn't know any better. That was just
Yeah.
that was our starting point. That was our normal. Um, and so I think we were a little lucky on that because I know a lot of people really struggled during COVID, just because it was quite the adjustment. But I never had that adjustment period because I didn't know what it was beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Okay. And so you grew up wanting to be a vet. You said that it wasn't necessarily in the cards for you, but did you grow up around animals where did that
Oh
passion
yeah.
kind of, yes. Okay.
Oh yes. My family, we actually fostered when I was younger. I remember my mom bringing home kittens found in dumpsters at her work.
Mm,
The stray cat had kittens. My mom's cousin used to work at an animal shelter, so we fostered for them. I was always taught you see a stray dog or a dog running at large, you always stop. It doesn't matter where you're going.
mhm.
So we had animals too. So it's not surprising to my parents that this is what I ended up doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. The groundwork was set for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Can you paint us a bit of a picture of the rescue work itself for you, the light and the dark? Like, what does a typical day look like for you?
It's interesting. So, because I go to work, um, so I work, Monday through Friday, eight to four, 8 to 5. So everything I do, luckily, my job is very flexible. It's a lot of like on my lunches, taking phone calls, emails, doing things like that to manage the like backside of it. But if anybody needs to be dropped off at the vet in the morning, it's myself or one of our fosters. It's arranging that if the foster needs help. Um, it's a lot of conversations with fosters, making sure all the pieces are moving because we're foster base. So I
Mhm.
don't have a shelter. I got to make sure that everybody's got transportation. They've all got their supplies. After work, it's normally, to be honest, I've made it very easy. Our office is on my way home. It's right in front of the pet store we use, and
Okay.
it's like 5 blocks down from the vet office. So it's kind of a zag on the way home. So normally, I would tell you 2 out of 3 stops happen almost every
Mm,
time I come
mhm.
home. Um, and so that is like a traditional day if I don't have anything crazy, but we also run a pet food bank. So like yesterday that was opened after work so that people could come and get food for their animals if they are having a hard time. At the same time, correlated that and did 10 kitten intakes with 2 moms.
Mm,
And then all of that went home and took care of, my foster and all of that. So I mean, that's a traditional day, but we always, no day's the same. Today I've got a guinea pig who had an emergency that had to go to the vet right away. First thing this morning,
mm.
we had 2 wellness exams at the vet, and then we got a call for a really lethargic cat who's probably about a 1 on the body scale,
Oh yeah.
who needed help now. And that was a phone call to my vet to see if they can even take it, board it for a day while I figure out like a foster and all of that. So I feel like we're always on crisis mode,
Yeah.
and that's just rescue in general.
Yeah, exactly. And for those who might not know what that body scale is there a way for you to briefly kind of explain that?
Yeah, so body scale is 1 to 5, 5 being like super obese, like dangerously obese. And then, 4 is like, hey, or still rounder, but not terrible. Most animals are in between a 3 and a 4.
Hmm.
They're somewhere, between okay and maybe a little heavier, I feel like
Yeah.
is the general scheme of things. 2, we start getting really skinny. 2 starts being concerning. And then definitely ones are incredibly concerning. Those are, you're seeing almost all the bones. You're seeing, no fat, sunken heads, things that come along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that must be pretty alarming when you see an animal in that condition.
Yes, but we're seeing it more and more these days.
Is that right? Okay.
Mhm.
What is your take on why that's happening?
So, I mean, in the last 6 months, we've had 4 body scores of 1 come in
Mm,
different situations. I would tell you that it's hard out there. The cost to vet your animals, the cost to fix them, the cost just to feed them has gone up with everything, and people are struggling. So, sometimes we're seeing they didn't have a choice. So they dumped the dogs. We're seeing, I think we're seeing the strays that are coming with it. So people aren't feeding the strays as much because they can't afford it. People are leaving animals behind that aren't necessarily able to fend for themselves, which I think is the catalyst for this cat in particular, but we haven't seen it. And then unfortunately, we've seemed to have found our way into a world where, for us in particular, we're seeing a lot more mental health and neglect cases. But that's just because we don't have animal control in the county we're in. And so we seem to be picking up the pieces.
Yeah, that's a lot to take on. In your area, are there many other organizations who are doing what you're doing, or do you feel a lot of pressure to be taking on a lot of these cases?
So it's interesting. I live in a rural-ish, I guess in Oregon we would call it a rural-ish. It's like half rural and half agriculture out in Yamhill. And so we have one, two, three, like four of us, maybe five of us. And it's hard because it's a huge population. The shelters, so the two shelters in particular, they see a lot of it, but they're not county shelters. They're just privately run, animal rescue shelters, and they do contract with the county, but the four and five of us can't handle even just our county alone. And there's overflows. I mean, I hear stories from people where they've been told to release the dog back out because there's no room in the kennels for them. Um, and they don't tackle cats. It's just dog control that the police handles. So um, there is a lot of pressure, and all of us are full. But that I also think is nationwide. Everybody's full.
Yeah, it seems to be true. Yeah. Okay. What's maybe one part of this work that people at large maybe seem to misunderstand?
I think that's a tough one. Um, I think the one thing is is I don't know that everybody realizes that it's volunteer based for a lot of places. Not everybody. I know that there are shelters that have employees and there are some bigger places, but the majority of your rescues are going to be smaller and they're going to be volunteer based. And we get people who are impatient because we didn't respond right away. We get people who expect us to drop everything and come drive out there and fix the problem. Um, there's a lot that goes into that. And also the understanding that, I get 25 to 30 phone calls, texts, and emails a day. And that's a lot on top of, foster emails that we see. And that's not my fosters, that's just random people. Sometimes things get missed, there's errors. Our focus is normally on the animals and not always on the management side of those kinds of things. And so I think just a little bit of grace sometimes is not always given.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I've even just stumbled upon that recently this week on some, social media and people feeling frustrated, impatient about maybe phone calls not being answered right away and some assumptions being made. And yeah, I'm sure that's a very painful thing as someone who's trying so hard to kind of sift through that.
And it's hard because I think the majority, I mean, a lot of places have gone to just not answering the phone. They just have a voicemail system because they were tired of getting screamed at. They were tired. They couldn't keep up with the call volume.
Yeah.
And take care of the animals and do, their day jobs if they had them, or handle the animals in shelter. And so, I think that's the other part is I'll get people, I'm like, hey, did you try this person? They're like, well, they didn't answer the phone. I'm like, yeah, they don't have a phone service anymore. You just go online and do this. And they're like, well, I want to talk to somebody. And getting them to understand that, we want to help, but we also have to be realistic on, what we can manage on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's shifting the topic seems like a natural transition into kind of the concept of resilience. Let's start with the animal side first. Is there a story that you have of unexpected healing or transformation or something that you've witnessed in an animal that just really demonstrates the concept of resilience.
Oh gosh, yeah. I got one for that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
That was a good one. We had a case, Norma Jean. I don't, they're not allowed, our vets are not allowed to name them after actresses that have died early anymore. That was the determining factor. Um, Norma Jean came in. It was a fairly sad story. This is her like second litter. They passed away the first time. They were passing away the second time. The people asked to surrender them. We took them in. I lost all of the babies. They were at the vet. We lost all the
Mhm.
babies like back to back. And we learned later why mom is type B and the kittens must have been type A blood and they weren't compatible.
Okay.
Um, but at the time we had no idea. So took her home. There was nothing more that could be done. She developed a pyometra, which is an infected uterus.
Mm.
In a very short span of time, it was like in 3 days after the babies, and the babies passed away within the first 48 hours. So, I mean, 4 days, 5 days after giving birth, she developed a pyometra. So she went in for an emergency surgery, had the pyometra, had her uterus removed, was fixed, essentially, and got her home. And something just wasn't right. The next morning, I could tell something was really off. So rushed her to my day vet, who didn't perform the original surgery, but we have. And she crashed like the moment I got there.
Mm.
We call it the death crawl. Like they're agonal, they're pawing. They got her stable, and we realized she clearly had a bleed on the inside. Probably complication of surgery that nobody had seen.
Mhm.
Um, and that when we ran her blood work, she was at the point of blood transfusion and really bad. You do a blood transfusion normally at the like 12 to 13 range, and she was at like 8. And so we typed her. And this is when we learned that Miss Norma Jean is a B blood, which is pretty rare and very hard to find. Of course, we had A donors in the hospital, but we didn't have B donors. And the one B donor was unavailable. So I rushed from Sherwood to Portland to Dove Lewis to purchase a bag of blood.
Wow.
That was the longest, like hour and a half drive. When I came back, she had died 5 more times
Oh
on
my.
the table. And they got her back each and every time. And it's just because she was so low on her blood. But like when I walked in the door, like they had just gotten her back again. Um, and we gave her the blood transfusion. I mean, immediately it was in her. And the transformation of this poor cat went from like flat to like perked up a little bit. And the blood just did that much of a difference for her. Um, 24 hours like later, we had to do another blood transfusion. One was just not going to be enough, and we knew that. Um, but she actually got to have her second blood transfusion while walking around the hospital because it had been the first time in like 48 hours that she had walked.
Wow.
And that was the last, like she could never be a donor because she had a blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm.
But she was probably like the body score of like a 3.2 when we got her.
Okay.
And she is now like probably a 4 or 5 in her
Oh,
adoptive family's home.
okay.
This was like 2 years ago. She's quite chunky. She's a very
Yeah.
different cat now.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget walking in and having our vet say, like, okay, this is the 5th time I brought her back. Like, we got to get the blood in her, like, now.
Oh my gosh. That's
But she made
so
it.
stressful. Thank goodness she made it. But wow, that's very stressful.
It was a long hour and a half drive.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
No, and our poor vets, and they're day vet. We're lucky our vets have emergency training. They work 10 years each in the ER, but
Okay.
they run a general practice. This was not an ER that I had her at. So I'm thankful for their experience to be able to handle it.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, it takes a whole team.
Oh, it took a whole team,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I think animals definitely teach us a ton about resilience, their ability to bounce back from I mean, in this case, really bouncing back from death, which is
Yeah.
quite a miracle, really.
Yes. And 5 times, nevertheless. So,
Yeah, no kidding. If you had to define what resilience means to you, like how would you maybe define it?
oh, that's a good one. I always put resilience and strength together, but I don't know
Mhm.
that that's it. Like, I mean, there is some of it. Um, I think it's internally like being strong
Mhm.
and the strength that it takes internally.
Where do you think you developed resilience?
Oh, definitely my mother.
Your mother.
Oh, yeah. That and I think life teaches us all a little bit of resilience.
Hmm.
I can tell you in my younger like 20s, like I don't know sometimes how we made it day to day. Money was tight. We were 19, 20, living on our own. I think life in general, for most people, teaches us some level of resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hope, right? That we have that ability to go through particular hardships and yeah, move through it in some fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you take care of yourself? I mean, it sounds like your days are full. You've got people that you're responding to, animals you're responsible for, but where do you come into the equation for yourself? How do you take care of yourself?
Yes, super funny. I think that that's the one biggest thing I'd give to anybody who even remotely tries to get into rescue is don't burn yourself out. I did that for the first 4 years and it sucks and the burnout sucks. It's hard. And I know that people are like, well, I can't say no, or there's so much. And the answer is you just have to say no at some point. Um, I learned, a couple years ago that truthfully, self-care is probably the most biggest thing. So for the most part, we don't really respond to stuff after like 6:30.
Hmm.
Occasionally here and there, I'll send a message or, if there's like the other night we got like a really bad emergency phone call and I left at 10 o'clock at night to go get it. Um, but those are far and few in between. So it's kind of the line in the draws I've had is, I get dinner with my partner. Um, those are things that the evening is ours for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, we get one day off together, and we get two, but one of them is we dedicate to not like adoptions, but we always try to have one weekend day where it's just us. We go do whatever it is, whether it's like we're going to the Lavender Festival this
Hmm.
weekend,
Oh, nice.
or we go to the beach or whatever. And then vacations. We take vacations. We take weekends. We have wonderful pet sitters, fosters. They can still get supplies. We're not gone for long periods of time. And even if we were, we would have setups for it. We've been gone for a week at a time before. Um, but we take vacations. So we take at least 2 long weekends, if not 3 or 4 throughout the year.
Yeah, it seems like it would. I mean, I'm hearing definitely just being really strong in those boundaries and being able to give yourself that opportunity for, I guess, the nervous system to reset a little bit.
You do. You do. And there are some weeks where I know that my threshold is getting there and it's just not a week to do, a pet food bank and it's not a week to do intakes and it's not a week, try to keep, the medical cases to a minimum. I can't control out, in the ones we already have, but I can control the outside ones. Um, and just knowing where I sit because burnout sucks and burnout will, cause issues for people in the long term, in the long run.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of noticing, signs in yourself that might be happening. What do you notice for yourself when you know you're edging toward burnout or you're in burnout? Like what happens for you?
For me, it's a matter of like, I thrive in chaos. Somebody actually asked me that yesterday. I was like, do you thrive in chaos? And I said, yeah, I mean, pretty much it's always chaos. But the biggest thing I'll notice is like, I feel frazzled. I'm pulled from this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction. And some days those happen, but if I can't get that feeling under control for multiple days, um, then we're definitely having an issue. And if I can't get my brain to shut off when I go to bed, if the answer is oh my gosh, this medical bill, this cat, this, and this, then it's time to just take a step back for a second and, you know, remember why we're doing this, but that this isn't, you know, my whole entire life. As much as I love it and it's my passion, sometimes I gotta take a step back and take care of me too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Have you ever had moments where you've thought about walking away from Hazel's house?
Yeah, so that burnout after that first 4 or 5 years, I was also going through a divorce. There was a lot happening, and you know, I think it came up that the rescue could close like 2 or 3 times, and it was just so much. I had burned myself out, running the rescue. I was going through life changes, and then I was still running on, like midnight fuel, just trying to go.
Yeah.
And at some point, something had to give. And basically, I took over winter of, I think it was 2023, and we had like 12 animals in care. It was winter time.
Hmm.
We kept it really low, and I spent the winter just kind of recouping. We still had animals in our care. We still, I just didn't get above 20 for the first little bit.
Okay.
And slowly we were able to rework that and, kind of set better boundaries and um, just make sure that I took care of me better. And that has helped a significant amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like this work itself has taught you about your limits, or were you aware of these kind of limits before?
Oh, no. Gosh, no. No, this work definitely helps you. This work helps you if you do, uh, you know, at some point, everybody, I think, in this industry either gets out or they set the boundaries. I don't think that you can do it without boundaries for long term.
Mhm.
And I think that you eventually learn how to set those like elsewhere too. So for myself, it has helped me just know what those limits are, knows what those boundaries are, know what I can and can't do, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that there are other things that help you stay in this work other than boundaries, which as a therapist, I'm a huge proponent of, but are there other things that kind of keep you in this work?
Oh, I mean, the animals keep me in it. We love the animals. The community we have a wonderful community system. Like, not only just, we have a wonderful relationship with our day vet and with our spay and neuter clinics that we work with. Our fosters are all amazing. Um, and then our supporters, even the people who come to like our pet food bank who need assistance, like most of the time they're not the bad apples. They're generally nice people who are just down on luck, and you know they're willing to try to help out where they can. Like I have somebody who sometimes comes to the pet food bank, and she doesn't have a lot, but she's willing to put some time in to help us with our online auction. um so they're wanting to give back, and it's just seeing all of that and seeing the difference that we can make for the animals, and hearing the post stories, the follow-up stories. Um, we've built this wonderful little community, and thinking of it all just dissolving one day just is hard.
Oh, yeah.
So it definitely keeps you going.
Obviously there are definitely times when you're faced with losing animals. Um, what's that grief process like for you?
Ugh, that is the worst one. I think that that's the hardest one that I think any rescuer could agree with this too, is that I don't know that we ever really get to grieve it. I mean, sometimes I grieve it later at night. I grieve it when I write their posts, but you know, like, was it last week? I think it was last week. We had a shitty week. We had a cat on Saturday that we had been alerted to and had been like, we thought had been hit by a car. It was a stray. So we had somebody go pick it up, take it to the vet. It ended up with saddle thrombus and passed anyways. And then we had another stray that I went and picked up late at night. We had to euthanize.
Mm.
And then we had one of our kittens in our rescue crash after a neuter for no undetermined reason and also passed away on later in the week. And, people ask like, how do you grieve them? And the answer was, I didn't get a chance to grieve them individually. It was, gotta go. I had another phone call. I had this. We had something else to do. I've got to make sure my foster is okay. Whatever the case may be. The one thing that I will say that I do is for animals that are in our care that um, we have some sort of attachment to. I mean, anyone in our care we do, but like even the stray from late at night somehow got to me. And we write a memorial post. And that is normally when I do my ugly cry as I'm typing away their story. Um, and so, like, for this particular one, I felt like it was such a week. And we actually took the time to go back to the beginning of the year and just remember the ones that we had lost. And it's not a lot when you look at like the grand scheme of things and the numbers, it's 5%. But, we remembered those 5%. We posted stories and so those are two ways we do it. I mean, our memory posts, and then my other half sees me ugly cry, to be honest,
Yeah.
and that's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Comes with the territory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you have foster people who are fostering these animals, because you do dogs, cats, and small other animals, and it sounds like you do. That's like based on your website, that's like a wide variety of small animals, it sounds like.
We do. We normally do cats, dogs. So cats are 75%. We have dogs, and then we have guinea pigs on a normal basis.
Okay.
But I've helped reptiles. I've helped ferrets. I've helped rabbits. I helped bird.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
And I think you'd said that also on the website, like you've helped over 2,000 animals, which is pretty incredible and sounds like more to come.
Yeah, so and our numbers with that are different than I think a lot of people report is, a lot of people report the animals that have like they've brought into rescue. And I don't always look at it that way. I look at it as in, the number of animals that we have fixed as well for their owners because that helped them in some aspect. And the animals that we help feed or we've paid for their emergency care,
Yeah.
we still, our rescue was able to touch that animal, help them, and provide them even just a better quality of life or for whatever, point that is. So we count all of that into what we do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just such a impressive number for a small organization, right? To be able to serve so many people and so many animals. Very cool.
Yeah, we definitely, I think we always say like small but mighty. Like I think
Yes.
that when people call us sometimes, I don't think they realized actually our size. Um, but we definitely try to make as big of an impact as possible.
Yeah. If people have thoughts about being a foster, but maybe they have a fear or a worry that they wouldn't be able to, like they'd get too attached and they wouldn't be able to kind of keep that revolving door going. Like, what would you say to someone who had that worry or concern?
I think that, well, the first thing I think is you got to know you because there are people, and I will tell them straight up, they're wonderful adopters, but they're not fosters.
Yeah.
And that truly is. But I think what I tell people is it's easier as you go. You start to have maybe almost a different mindset. Not that you don't love them, but you're able to put up some sort of something in your mind that just tells you, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. But I will also tell you, we do a really good job of like, we do alumni posts or we tell people to write into us and give us updates. And not everybody does,
Mm-hmm.
but our fosters love seeing that. They love seeing like Norma Jean, for instance, now all chunky and big and no longer that skinny, fragile, frail that we all remembered her being. Or, we got a video this weekend of two kittens that we adopted. They're like brothers and they're almost twins. And they got adopted this weekend and I got a video of them like playing in their new house. And you would never know that they went through the stress of like being adopted and leaving their foster home. And for that foster, like that's that little piece of mind. Like I did that. I helped them get here and now I get to go help another.
Yeah.
And there's always another. that needs help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I follow a ton of rescues and sanctuaries, and even I see the evolution of their stories, and I get attached to them, and I'm not even nearby sometimes these animals, but I just love seeing their journeys and
Absolutely. And we
yeah.
let our fosters, like I have, she's 14 now. She started with me when she was 12. Her and her mom are a duo team. And she will write a little letter for each of her fosters. And it has like her email address. And it just says like, hey, if you want to send a update, like here's my email. And totally fine. It's not an obligation on the adopter side, but it's a chance to connect. And, I would say it's 50-50 on if they do or don't. Um, but even that, like the ones that she gets to see, it just makes it that much better. You get to see them grow up and find loving homes and then do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Seeing them thrive and know that you got to be a part of that journey.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Um, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I'm kind of curious if there is a funny moment that you remember coming up in the rescue world. I find that humor is also part of that resilience, and so I'm kind of curious if there's any funny,
Oh,
memorable moment.
oh, I don't. Um, okay. I mean, yes and no. I feel
Mm.
like it's kind of sad too, though.
Mhm. Okay.
But I can remember, and I guess it goes back to resilience as well. I mean, so that's pretty much on point. It was the first dogs we ever took in, and I knew that her name was Baby. She's still alive. But I knew that she was sick, but we couldn't at the time that she was dropped off. She had perked back up, didn't know what was happening, was watching her blood sugar because that's what I assumed it was, but didn't know why. Um, and when I got up the next morning, she already had a vet appointment. She was like almost flat. And I was like, oh my God, this dog was like running around last night, was totally fine. And I remember showing up at my day vet, and the answer was, is she dead? And I was like, no, but she looked it. And I hopped back there, and the vet didn't even question what was happening. She goes, hold on, got it. And she put an IV in and goes, watch this. And she gave her dextrose. And we all just sat there for a second in like bated silence. And this dog went from flat and then came up, and she's got her tongue out and was like, I'm just here. And we all kind of had to laugh because she one came up like a zombie almost, like just flat to nothing, um, really quickly. Um, but in the moment, we were all so scared and then just kind of had to laugh at this really dorky dog who
Oh
just
yeah.
like came up like tongue out, like she had a bad hangover or something.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe being in the helping profession and certainly this is a generalization, but I think sometimes like a little dark humor sometimes, but kind of
yeah,
kind of helpful.
it can be, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Um, if people listening want to support your work, what is the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, so you can do it in two ways. You can, follow us on Facebook. That's probably where we're the most active. It's just Hazel's House. We talk a lot about like resources, what's happening in the rescue, and then, you know, how you can support the rescue through donations, monetary and items, our bottle drop program, and a bunch of other items. You can also follow on our website, hazelshouse.com, and it gives you just a little snapshot of who we are and how you can donate or use Fred Meyer's community rewards to help and things like that as well.
Great. And I'll put that information in the show notes so people can follow up as they want to. And any last thoughts about resilience that maybe we didn't cover or anything that you maybe was left untouched that you want to share?
No, I think we did a really good job covering it. Like your questions were wonderful. I think they touch on just about everything.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you again so much for participating in this project. And I know that with these discussions, I think people will be able to, whether they're in the rescue world themselves or they just become a listener, there's either a better understanding or a connection of, being kind of heard and seen in the work that is done for these animals.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, a quick note, Zodipaws is proud to support rescue organizations like Hazel's House Rescue through proceeds from our personalized dog astrology books. Every book explores your dog's astrological story and supports local shelters. You can explore more at zodipaws.com and even find Hazel's House Rescue listed on our Animal Rescue Hub directory at animalrescuehub.org. Use the code RESCUE10 for a discount at zodipaws.com and know that part of your purchase gives back. Thank you again to Brittany Hazel of Hazel's House Rescue for sharing their story. If you were moved by this episode, share it with a friend, follow us on Instagram at animal.rescuehub, or leave a review. Until next time, may we find all our own tales of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.paws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.